what do you call? I have uploaded all the answers for your quiz one in the iTalib. You can just have a look. Okay. Well, I was thinking last time when I asked you how was your quiz, I was thinking that you were kidding, but actually you were not kidding. You were telling the truth. Because if you want me to rate your first quiz out of 10, I will say that the level of difficulty is about 1. Or maybe if I want to try to um, make it higher, maybe 2 out of 10. Okay? I didn't expect that your your average is actually around 2 for the whole class. 2 out of 5. Okay. So I was a bit surprised because we have discussed all the question in class, and I'm not sure what's the problem with that, right? Okay, so let's have a look to make sure that you should know how to answer the quiz. I mean, basically, it tells me that you haven't tried to uh to answer the question from your textbook, but you have quite a lot of question from your textbook. But if you haven't tried the question, you may not know how to answer it. I think that will be the main reason why you couldn't score well in your quiz. But we still have some students who got 4 over 5. Just to let you know, I was very lenient in my first quiz. Okay, if I wasn't that lenient, I don't think anyone will get 4. Okay, so let's look at the first question. Okay, so briefly explain the word briefly, right? Okay, you don't really have to memorize the what we call the point. You just have to understand what are they. So just to let you know, this kind of structure is following the final exam and midterm exam question. So what is the structure? We will start with the simple question, and then we will expose to you with the average or medium level of question in terms of the difficulty, and the third one is actually what they call the hard level. But I don't know, based on my experience, the simple question, the basic one, this is the normally an issue, a problem for the student. They cannot score well in the simple one. Sometimes they cannot score well in the average and the medium one, but they can score well in the what we call indirect or hard question. I don't know why. You're supposed to be able to score well in the basics and the medium. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so briefly explain the following words in the following whatever term in words as appropriate. So you have 0.5 marks each. Okay, panel data. I have explained this in the first class, right? So it's just a combination of cross-section and time series data. I also put the page number if you want to refer to the panel data. Okay, I did mention. So if let's say the question asks you, what is cross-sectional data? Okay, cross-sectional data is just the data that focus on individual depends individual customer, individual household, individual staff. Okay, while time series is the data that focus on a series of time. You will deal with many one variable, but then given a periods of time. Panel is a combinations of these cross sections and time series. So sometimes if let's say in the final they're gonna ask you, okay, you may provide an examples or an equation and as the illustration. So you can write the equation. So for your cross section you're gonna have one I, but for the panel you're gonna have one I T. Okay, so this is telling you that you are talking about combinations of cross sections and the time series data, one IT, beta naught, and then you're gonna have beta 1, and then you're gonna have X, I, T as well, and then plus you have beta, this is beta 1, you have beta 2, maybe let me use different words, you maybe have Z, I, T, and then whatever blah blah blah, you plus with epsilon, I, T as well. So this is actually the equations of panel data. So make sure that you shouldn't put YP. If it doesn't tell you this is panel data. Panel data is a combination of your cross section, which is in the form of I, and the time series in the forms of T. Okay, so that answered the question. Okay, so next, sometimes if let's say you don't want to tell this is a combination of cross section and time series, if you give me the equation, I can tell that you know what is panel data. Okay, so next, specification error. Well, this is in page 67. Okay, but I did mention this last class about specification error, and basically it is in chapter, I'm not sure, 2 or 3. Okay, so if let's say you want to specify your model, okay, specification means, okay, let's ignore this error. Specification means, okay, your independent variables are correctly measured. Okay, means that you have included the relevant independent variable and you also measure them correctly. Okay, and then you use a correct functional form. And then you also have included your stochastic error term, your epsilon. This is the meanings of specification. You include the relevant variable and correct measurement form, okay, and a correct measurement. You also include correct functional form, and you also have the stochastic, the error term. You add the error term. This is specification. But when you have specification error, means that you make some error or some mistake in actually these three things, either one of them. Sometimes you put what we call irrelevant independent variable, or sometimes you put relevant independent variable, but the way you measure them, for example, you are talking about income, you should measure income using perhaps ringgit or dollar, but you somehow measure income using maybe unit or scale, so it's not correct. Okay, so you have to have the correct measurement. Functional form, okay, you have to make sure that you use the correct functional form. Sometimes your equation could be linear, sometimes it could be non-linear, so you have to look at the theory on how to come up with the correct functional form. When you talk about utility, your satisfaction, you cannot have, if you want to draw a diagram, okay, you cannot have an increasing utility. Okay, when you talk about utility, your utility could be so perhaps you will have an increasing utility after certain consumption, and later on, after certain point, it will fall. So you may have this kind of Cobb-Douglas functional form. So not all equation will be linear. Okay, it could be non-linear as well. So you have to make sure that you use the correct functional form so that you will not have a specification error. And then the last one is just adding the error term or your epsilon. That's it. Okay, you shouldn't make any one of the problem in these three elements. Okay. Sometimes the question can also ask you, what is model specification? So model specification is this one. Okay, the error means you make mistake in one of them. Okay, so next, decide whether you would expect relationship. So we want to know relationship, right? Whether between the following pairs of dependent and independent. So look at the word. It says that dependent first and independent respectively. So the first variable is your dependent and the second variable is your independent. Okay? And this is how you read the question. But some of you, you you didn't read this question carefully, so you think that, well, the first one is independent, the second one is dependent. No, read the question. A pair of dependent, so we'll see dependent first and then independent the second variable. Okay, so what kind of relationship will you expect? Either positive, negative, or ambiguous. Ambiguous means you think that it could be negative or positive, or you are not sure. Okay, so explain. This is the part that you miss. So if you just tell me for example, just like this is just the example. You tell me ambiguous without telling me anything. You said that, okay, the relationship is positive. That's it. Okay, or maybe you will say the growth rate of GDP. So let me just write it here. Okay, so your Y is actually GDP equals to, or we can say it's a functions of health. right? Health of the worker. Okay, some of you will say that the relationship is positive because if the of the worker increase, the GDP will also increase. So it's positive. Okay, so it doesn't explain why do you think that health is increased, the GDP will be increased as well. So that is not explanation. That is just telling me the relationship that you expect. You expect that when one increase, another one increase, so it is a positive relationship. So explain means you have to be able to explain why when the health increase, GDP increase. So you have to normally rely on the theory, right? In order for you to explain why the relationship could be positive. Okay. So in the case of GDP, have you heard about GDP? Do you know what is GDP? Should I put the what we call um a proper sentence to tell what is GDP? You should know, right? So you are already third year, fourth year. I don't really have to explain that this is gross domestic product. Right. So I'm assuming that you should at least have this kind of knowledge. GDP is a functions of what? Consumption. Have you heard about this? Or you haven't heard about GDP at all? Hmm? What
Investment.
is it? Consumption? What else?
Investment.
Investment.
Government spending. You have what else? Investment. Uh, okay. Consumption is from the consumer. Government spending is from the government side. Investment is from the industry or private sector. What else do you have?
Net
Export,
export.
Export,
export
import.
minus import, which is the net, right? So these are the factors that you know that will have a direct impact on GDP. Can you see the house somewhere here? No, right? So
No.
yeah. So I was thinking this is an easy question. You should be able to answer this straight away. And yet, again, many of you will say, well, positive because when the house of the worker is better, it will improve their productivity, efficiency in working. They will work more, then the GDP will be high. Well, it's really indirect. Okay, when the relationship is indirect, so you cannot say it is positive or negative because the in the theory, the factors that affecting GDP is this form. So has could be okay, but it's very indirect. So you will say, why did I put ambiguous? I didn't explain why in this answer because I want to show some of you just put positive. Some of you just put negative without explaining. So I will not give you an answer. Remember, you have to explain. Explain. So why it is ambiguous? Sometimes when the health of the worker is better, means that you have a good health, improved health, you can work productively or you can work efficiently, and somehow in total it will affect the GDP. We can say indirectly. It could be right because of the productivity level increase. But sometimes, even though your health is good, I mean you are in the good condition. It doesn't mean that you will work harder. Sometimes people just, for example, I'm not saying bad about any kind of job. For example, you are a government staff. You will go to your office or your whatever. Whether you work harder or not work harder, you still get the income. So why do you have to work harder, right? So it doesn't mean that when your health is good, your productivity will increase and it will have a positive impact on GDP. So you cannot prove that. The theory doesn't say that. So it's ambiguous. It can have positive, it can have negative, depending on the person itself. If let's say the person is very hardworking, then maybe it will have an impact on their productivity. Still, it's not straightforward. You still have another variable here, which is productivity, and then the productivity will affect the GDP. Okay, but some people, even though their health is okay, I mean good, they have no impacts on their productivity. Doesn't matter. So that's why it is ambiguous. Okay, you cannot tell a direct forward impact. So next, the quantity of canned tuna demanded and the price of fresh tuna. So you have to know fresh tuna and canned tuna is, well, some of you said substitute. Some are able to eat fresh, some may eat canned. But actually, I don't know. Is there anyone mentioned about inferior? Okay. Canned tuna is actually inferior good. Fresh tuna, of course, the price of fresh tuna will be more expensive than the can, because can is something that they put it. I mean, they produce it for a long time, and it's not really, fresh, right? The quality is a bit lower. Okay, and the canned tuna, normally the price is cheaper compared to the fresh tuna. Okay. So of course, well, first, yeah, you can argue based on inferior theory, or you can argue based on substitute theory. Okay. So let me give you a new one. So for example, so this is the quantity of canned tuna demanded, right? So this is just quantity of tuna. This is just like your consumption. Remember? Quantity of tuna demanded, consumption, and then the price of the fresh tuna. This is the price of your substitute, you can say, or price of tuna. So if let's say the price of tuna increase, the price of fresh tuna is expensive. What happened? You will switch to the canned tuna. Means that because the fresh tuna is so expensive, you will demand more on the canned tuna because canned tuna is cheaper, right? So it is positive relationship, because you can say that their canned tuna is inferior good. So when people know that they cannot afford the fresh tuna, so they will switch to the inferior one, the cheaper one. Or you can also say it is substitute. If this particular product is expensive, so they will switch to the substitute. So either way, both are explaining the theory. So when I said explain, you have to have your basis. You don't just say, when the price increase, this will decrease. When the price decrease, this will increase. No, okay? That is not explaining. That is just telling the relationship. Okay, whether it is negative or positive. Okay? Okay, next. I will just keep moving unless you stop me. Okay? Okay. Number 3. Say, well, basically question 1 and 2, you can do it within less than 5 minutes. I give you 30 minutes, right? So basically, I always give you plenty of time, but the time doesn't uh, contribute to anything, right? Okay. So that's why I said the first and second question should be easy. This type of question, basically you can score more marks, but I don't know what happened. Many students couldn't score well in the first and the second question. If let's say we are talking about the level of difficulty. Okay, consider the following estimated equation. So 0.5 each. So you have this equation. So consumption as well. I purposely give you a very simple example so that you can uh, answer the question. Consumptions of used car. So used car is an inferior good. Okay, you know this, but well, I don't know whether you really know inferior or normal good and luxury as well. Okay, used car. Many of you, I don't know, you don't really uh like to purchase the what we call pre-love items, right? Something that people has been using. Okay. So normally people will purchase the new car, but I'm talking about used car. Okay, this is inferior of the I Malaysian. So I didn't put small I because I want you to think of it. What kind of data is this? But I forgot to ask the question. There are so many questions already. Okay, so this is cross-sectional data. The price, okay, so the consumptions of your inferior good is the functions of course, the price of used car. If let's say the price of used car is higher, so of course you don't want to purchase the used car, right? And then disposable income. Okay, so disposable income, if you are having more income, will you purchase the used car? Will you purchase the inferior good? No, you will go for a normal good, right? So you will expect that for the price is actually higher price, lower consumption, the law of demand. So that is the theory. Law of demand says the price will have a negative relationship with the consumption. Okay, while for the disposable income, for the inferior good, it says that if let's say you have a higher income, you will not go for used car. You will not purchase the inferior good. You will purchase the normal good at least. You can go for a luxury good, but normally people will go for normal good. Okay. So that is the equation. I was thinking this is the simplest equation because we always talk about consumptions, right? But the items are different. Okay, now and then we also talk about disposable income, the price of that item. Okay, that's why I said if you couldn't answer the question, basically you didn't even try to didn't even try to answer the question in the textbook. So what is the meaning? Meanings means basically they ask you to interpret the number. What is the meanings of the estimated coefficients of 18.5? This is 18.5. This is what we call your beta knot. Okay, so they ask you the meaning of beta knot. So some of you tell me beta knot is intercept. Of course it is intercept, but they want you to explain the meaning. What is the meanings of intercept? Okay, so intercept, okay, it's like meaning means like interpretation. Please interpret this number. So I did mention this many times in class. I was surprised that more than half of you couldn't answer this. So 18.5 means, okay, your consumptions of used car of this Malaysian is equals to 18.5 if your price and disposable income equals to 0. Or you can say if other variables equals to 0. But you only have two variables, right? Just write it down. If the price and disposable income is equal to 0, this is the value of your consumption, your beta knot. Some of you said that, okay, 18.5 means that your consumption is equal to 18.5 if the price is 0. Like almost half of you said if the price is 0. So what happened to the disposable income? It should also be 0 to 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 make sure that the consumption is equal to this. Okay, so the remaining variable should be 0 to make sure that this is the value for consumption. Okay, so I think that's simple as well. You don't really have to think too much on it. Okay, suppose you want to include, okay, let me see the equation. Suppose you want to include one condition. You want to include the conditions of the used car as an additional variable. Remember, if you can see my equation, I put dot dot, means that you still have other variable that you want to put in, but you are thinking about it, right? So that's why you didn't put epsilon, because you think that there are other things that you want to include in your equation. Okay, suppose you want to include the conditions of the used car as an additional variable. Okay, measured in terms of good condition. So let me put here. Condition is measured using, you have good, you have average, you have poor. Okay, so basically condition is measured using qualitative measurement, right? You are not using any number. Okay, so this is what you call dummy variable. Have you heard about dummy? Because 90% of you get it wrong. So I was wondering, did I teach you about dummy? What happened to you? Okay, so can you write the new equation? The new equation means that from the beginnings of the equation plus the dummy. Okay, so just to double check, where is this? Dummy is in, because I have explained this, and I wanted to show the proof, and because I don't know why 90% of you couldn't get it right. Okay, I should delete the previous one. Don't save. I opened too many slides. Delete this. So is this, do we have the dummy in chapter 1? Explain the housing price. If it is not in chapter 1, it will be in chapter 2. Yeah, it's in chapter 2. You only have 3 chapters, right? So let me see. I can. Eh?
Madam dummy in chapter 3.
Chapter 3. That's why I couldn't find chapter 2. I was thinking it is chapter 2. Okay. Oh, you guys know it is chapter 3. What happened? Okay. Okay. So look at the first example. Okay. This one is the dummy 1, because you want to quantify your qualitative variable. So you have to assign a value to your dummy. So 1 if the ICE teacher has a graduate degree and 0 otherwise. So this dummy whether the teacher has a degree or has no degree. So the one that you are interested in, you will give the value of 1. The one that you don't want, you are not interested in, is 0. 0 is the base, remember? Okay, this is the case if let's say you are talking about just a graduate degree, just one thing. But sometimes you may also have okay, where is it? This is um huh. So it is the examples in the slide. Sometimes the qualitative variable has 3 or more alternative. For example, you have bachelor, you have master, you have PhD. So what you did is that you put all the variables, all the conditions. See, I just used this word condition. I thought that it should ring a bell. It doesn't really help you, right? So you shouldn't put everything in the equation. You have to take one condition as the base, because for dummy, for the qualitative variable, you want to compare with the base. Okay, so in this case, what is their base? So they include, there are 3 conditions, right? PhD, master, and bachelor. So they put PhD equals to 1 and 0 otherwise. So the otherwise refers to the base. So basically they compare those who have PhD with those who have bachelor. They always compare with the base. So master equals to 1 and 0 otherwise. So this 0 otherwise refers to the bachelor. So for the dummy, if let's say you have 2 condition, 3 condition, 4 whatever, you will take the base as the lowest one, easy to compare, right? So it is there. See, they put here beta 2 PhD, beta 3 master. They didn't put bachelor because bachelor is the base for these 2 variable. So what happened? I asked the same thing. I just changed the word PhD, the level of education, into condition, right? So should you actually put everything in your equation? No, you shouldn't. So it is there in your slide. Okay, I didn't invent something new. So the question asks you to rewrite write the new equation. So beta naught plus, of you can put 18.5 if you want to, but because you don't know the value of the dummy variable, so it's fine if you want to give me the estimated value. I can accept that as well, but I want to see how you want to put your dummy. So you put beta naught, beta 1, which is your price, beta 2, which is your disposable income. So here the condition. Okay, so you have 3 conditions. Good is the highest, average is the second. Of course, the poor is something that you want to put as the base. That's it. So just put beta 3 good plus beta 4 average. Okay, so my question is that can you write the new equation? I don't ask you to explain. Some of you give the interpretation to me. No, I don't ask that. I ask you just to write the equation. That's it. But you give me different kind of answer. Okay, so econometrics is very simple. It's very straightforward. When they ask you to interpret, just interpret the meaning. Okay, when they ask you write equation, just write equation. Don't interpret anything. Don't explain anything. Okay. So it's easy. This also can be solved in less than 1 minute. Okay? Specify the expected sign. You know what is the meaning of expected sign? I just want to ask whether the sign is positive or negative. Or maybe you are not sure. Okay? So I just want to know whether it is positive, negative, or ambiguous. You are not sure. I don't ask you to interpret. I just want to know what are the signs. That's it. For your new equation written in B. So this is your new equation written in B. So the question asks you to tell me what is your expected sign. Expected sign is just like your priorly expected sign. Means that before you estimate the model, what is the sign that you will expect they will have. Okay? Okay, explain. Now then you have to explain. Why do you think that the sign is negative? Why do you think that the sign is positive or ambiguous? So explain, okay? Explain means you have to refer to the theory. Some of you just said, price is negative, full stop. Income is um income is positive or negative? Let me double check. Okay, so you have to actually not just telling negative or positive, you have to explain. Okay, so let me actually rewrite this equation so that I can see from here. I get but looking at this black color. Let's change into blue. What is the consumption? Equals to beta naught plus beta 1. This is the price. Okay, plus this is equal. And then plus beta 3, which is good condition. You can put good. Plus beta 4, which is average. Okay, so now, okay, you want to specify the expected sign. This is the consumptions of inferior good, right? Used car. Okay. So for the price, this is the price of used car as well. So you assume that when the price of the used car is high, what happened to the consumption? Of course, the consumption will fall, right? Okay, so according to the law of demand, when the price is expensive, it will demotivate people to uh, consume the used car. So consumption will fall. Okay, so next, disposable income. You are talking about inferior good, right? So inferior good, what happened? For the disposable income, why? Oh, I missed the disposable income in my equation here. Let me put here. Okay. You didn't say that I missed the disposable income. So so this is beta naught, beta 1. Oh, where is the beta 2? So let's assume that your beta 2 is here, which is disposable income. So what happened? When your income, let me use different color. When your income is high, means that you are getting richer now. Will you consume the inferior good? What about the consumptions of your inferior good?
Less.
Less. That's why I put negative. Okay, right? The reason is that it is inferior good when you have more purchasing power. Okay, when you have more income, you will have more purchasing power. And then when you have more purchasing power, you will consume a better product, a normal good instead of inferior good. This is how you explain from economics perspective, right? So I didn't put it here. I did, right? Yeah, I didn't put it here because I assume that you should know. You should know how to explain it. Okay, so you shouldn't put price negative, disposable income negative. That's it. So you have to be able to explain. Okay, you have to tell about inferior good, purchasing power, and I think yeah, that's it. So next, about okay condition. Okay, okay, so there are actually you have to have four reason for explain, right? Four reason for four variables. You have four variables here, but because for the condition, your base is actually the lowest, which is poor condition. So of course, when you talk about here good, so if let's say the used car is in good condition, um, people will consume more compared to if the car is not in the good condition or in a poor condition. You will always compare these two variables with your base. Okay, so the same thing with average. If let's say the used car is in, if the condition is average, people will consume more compared to if the car is in a poor condition. Okay, so this is how you wanna explain, but maybe you can say why why it is if let's say in terms of good condition, why people will consume more compared to poor condition. Of course the condition is good, right? So people will it will motivate people to purchase it and the price is lower, so why not, isn't it? So it depends on how you want to explain it, but basically if let's say you have more than 2 3 whatever, you always have to compare with the lowest condition with the, that's why it's become your base. Okay, next one, the notation plus indicates that there were more than 3 independent variable. I think in your quiz I put 4. Basically I simply take the question from the textbook, but then I modify the equation So basically your equation, you only have the previous one, you only have two variables, right? But I dropped a few variables here. So I forgot to actually change the answer here. Okay, but now you already have conditions. It's become three independent variables instead of two. So notation plus indicates that there were more than three independent variables in the equation. If you could add a variable, what will it be? And explain. Remember, explain. You have to explain in an economic point of view. Okay. So this is basically a bonus point question, right? We are talking about consumption. So you have to find what are the other variables that can affect your consumption, right? It's not just income, it's not just the price of the item. You should know what will actually influence your consumption. So I think this is a very easy question, yet. Um, many of you couldn't answer it, which I don't know why. Okay, so what do you think that can affect your consumptions of used car? What do you think? A good
My
example, huh?
mileage of used cars.
Yes, right. If the used car has the mileage is high, you may not want to purchase the car, right? It will reduce your consumption for that car. You may not purchase it. What else? Mileage is good. What else? Anyone else? The price of new car, remember this is about consumption, so you have to find the substitute, right? Substitute will have an impact. And remember last time we talked about, does the complement good has an impact on your consumption? Some said yes. Then we have explained this. It's just that the examples of consumption, sometimes it is beef consumption, sometimes it's um different type of mozzarella consumption. They are all about consumption, right? And 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 um I cannot explain why you cannot answer this. So you should be able to find any variable that you think may have an impact on your consumption. That's it. Okay, anything. Maybe preference. Some people just love to buy pre-loved item. Why? Because of course the used car is very cheap, right? Especially when you don't have your income. I mean, you don't have a stable job. So you are just student, you just need transportation, right? So you don't really have to purchase a new car. You may satisfied with what we call used car, right? You can just purchase the Kanchils, the used Kanchil, the used Myvi is good enough for you as long as you can somehow travel. Okay, so depends. It could be preference, it could be other factors. So you can just give one factor and explain why. That's it. Okay, last question. Based on the result presented above, result mean this one, right? And where is, because you have estimated your model, you have your results. Okay. Is there anything else you want to document? So now you are already in the document part. You have your result, you have presented it. So is there anything else you want to report? Why and why not? Some said that this equation is perfect already, is sufficient. Okay. And some said epsilon. Okay. So, well, people don't want to see epsilon in the result. In the result, basically, you want to evaluate how good your equation, your estimated equation. Epsilon is just in the, you don't have epsilon here because you think that you want to add some variable, but you don't expect to see epsilon. I mean, epsilon is not really the main concerns of you when you report your result. Okay, you want to see something else in the result. You want to see whether your predicted model is good enough. You want to see whether all the necessary items are there. Okay, but still, some of you who wrote epsilon, I still give full mark. The same thing with this, the growth rate of GDP. Some said positive because of increased productivity. The answer is not correct. I said to you, it is ambiguous because it is not part of the GDP. Okay, but well, I still give full mark. So that's why I said I was too lenient in giving you marks. If let's say I follow the correct answer closely, I don't think you will get 4. The highest is 4. Okay. But yeah, the purpose of the quiz is just to actually make sure that you will understand the question. It's not trying to penalize you and giving you low mark. I'm trying my best to give you easy questions so that you can score well. But somehow the easy question is not so easy to you. I don't know why. Okay, so let's just proceed. So what you want to document or present? Of course, you want to see, remember, when you have your equation, you want to see standard error, the error that you make. So here, so when you have this equation, so you want to see standard error here for each variable. This is the standard error. This is your standard error. So what is this functions of standard error? This is the error that you make when you are trying to estimate the betas, okay? So you want to see how large is the error made when you are trying to predict the changes in C, okay, in Y. And then when you have the coefficient, estimated coefficient, and you have the standard error, you will get t-score for each of the what we call estimation. So you want to see t-score. Why you want to see the t-score? Because t-score will tell you whether the variable is significant or not significant in affecting the changes in your y. Okay, if you don't have this t-score, how would you know which variable is significant or not? So you want to see t-score. You will also want to see the f, which I didn't put it here because there are many actually. You want to see, at the moment you have learned f, right? So it's better for me to put f. You also want to see f to show that the combinations of all the variables, do they have an impact on the change in your y? And you want to see n. Okay, in econometric, n means the number of sample. The capital N. But in statistic, capital N refers to the population. So I will just stick to your econometric. So you want to see how many sample you are using to estimate your Y. Okay, you want to see how many observation you have. And you want to see R square and R bar square. These two will tell you how good you are estimating the changes in Y. Okay, how fit your estimation is. So you want to see this in when you document your result, right? You don't want to see R, you don't want to see epsilon. Epsilon should be in the first stage. Okay, epsilon doesn't tell you anything. It just tell you that it will complete your equation to make sure that if let's say you make an error, epsilon can capture it. But it doesn't tell you any result that you are concerned about. Assumption. So in estimating your equation, sometimes you come up with so many assumptions. So you have to put, when you get this result, these are the assumptions that you make. So remember in economics, we have so many assumptions, right? So you may put some assumption. I did mention in class as well. Okay, so I think let's stop the recording so that you will not watch for long.